Now it's time to bring in our special guest at this time, Nebraska wrestling coach Mark Manning. How you doing, my friend?
Hey, Adam. Thanks for having us on.
I appreciate you joining us. All right, man. Talk to me about this past weekend. Well, going into the weekend. If someone had said, hey, coach, this is what this weekend's going to look like. This is what would be a success. Because obviously this last weekend was very successful. But what would you have considered a success? And then compare that, to what actually happened, which was pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, coming out of the Big Ten, so really during the season, we knew this team, could garner this type of not only attention, but they could be national runners up. I mean, Penn State, we needed more help to be able to overcome them. In the last 40 years, 117 points probably win 80% of the national championships. They have an amazing team, 10 All-Americans. They had 2 national champs. We had 2 national champs. So we needed more help to be able to catch them. But we knew we were capable of being in this position. We really did. Our guys just had an amazing belief system, and I knew this team had high standards. They weren't, we took 9 guys, and Lenny Pinto was upset in one of the matches, and end up not being All-American, and all the other 8 guys were All-Americans and 2 national champions. So an incredible weekend, but I think we worked for this, and I think our guys on our team just have high standards. They weren't there just to do well. They were there to get on the podium. And I think that's why this team achieved what they did.
Now, you said this team had the potential to fulfill this all along, which is fantastic. But obviously, it is the highest finish in program history, so it's quite an accomplishment. What do you think kind of differentiates? Obviously, you've been here and had great athletes and great teams in the past. What kind of differentiated this team to elevate to that highest program finish in history?
I just think it's like anything. It's belief system. The guys just their belief system's super high. And I'll give you an example. Cam McDaniel and Jacob Van D both lost first round and won 4 straight matches to become an All-American. That's super, super tough. And Cam McDaniel being a true freshman, 18 years old, there's guys at his weight class, 23, 24-year-old guys. The Iowa kid that was at Iowa one year, 2 other different schools, but that's another story. But, he's 24 years old. Cam McDaniel's 18. But Christopher Minto, taken 4th in the country as a redshirt freshman at 165, lightly recruited guy. And, I think those guys are the beneficiary of guys like Brock Hardy and Rich Lovett. That leadership trickled down to those guys. And, Adam, as you know, being on great teams and the impact one guy can have on another teammate is an amazing action to see. And you really saw that on our team this year. And so I think we went in the NCAA tournament and, with a chip on our shoulder. And I think we wrestled at the Big Tens the same way. We finished second there. We distanced ourselves from Iowa at the Big Ten. So for us, it was no big deal. And when we were in that moment, our guys responded really well. They were very poised, and they didn't freak out. And they were great in big moments.
So we played a clip from your press conference yesterday where you were talking about Antrell Taylor. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Antrell.
And everything. I mean, first born Nebraskan to win a championship, I believe, since 2000. I talked about that earlier. But everything he's been through, from the unfortunate, his dad and brother losing their lives to gun violence, but his dad, Darrell Taylor, actually passed away in 2011 which is the same year of the last time Nebraska had a national champion, which is Jordan Burroughs. That timeline is just kind of crazy there. But talk to me about any additional thoughts you might have about a homegrown kid overcoming so much to win a national title, and he's only a sophomore.
Yeah. Adam, we saw it last year. He actually, Peyton Robb, we had a 4-time All-American in Peyton Robb, and wrestled 157. So Antrell went up to 165, didn't have to cut any weight. Means he was kind of undersized. And in the toughest weight class in the NCAA tournament, 165 last year, he was an All-American. And that showed not only himself, but us that, he could do this. And it was his goal all year. And he got upset at Big Tens, and he was really disappointed. And I just thought, hey, just learn from that mistake, and you got 2 weeks to correct it and come back with a different mindset and then just a different approach. And our guys are so coachable. This team is very special. There's Adam, being on a lot of great teams, you have kids there or guys that are really hard head, and, they're very set in their ways. And this team, they're so coachable, and they really love each other, and just the togetherness. And, we have a motto, tough together. And I think we really proved that, over the course of the year, and definitely in March Madness. The best 5 days in wrestling is 2 days for Big Ten, 3 days in the NCAA tournament. And I think we really shined in those 5 days.
The new March Madness. I love that. That is awesome. The new March Madness. And for those who didn't know, Antrell actually won back-to-back 3 straight state championships in high school up in Omaha as well. I want to ask you about Ridge Lovett, who also won a national championship as well, Big Ten champion at the 149-pound weight limit. He's a 3-time All-American as well, best male athlete in 2022, Nebraska's most outstanding wrestler 2021 and 2022. Talk to me about Ridge, because he's the guy who's a 3-time All-American, Big Ten champ, national champ. He has had a sustained level of success over time. And I've said many times on this show, consistency is the hardest thing to accomplish as an athlete at the highest level. Talk to me about his consistent, sustained level of greatness over these past few years.
Yeah, he's, Adam, I've said this to a lot of people in a lot of interviews. When I knew when we landed Ridge Lovett, and he called me, we were the second to last visit. He went to Oklahoma State, which his dad loved. John Smith, legendary wrestler. He loved Oklahoma State. And he visited Oklahoma State his last visit. He calls me that Sunday, and he's like, "Coach, well," I said, "Well, what did you tell John Smith?" He said, "Well, John Smith said you're going to be a Cowboy." And I told John Smith, "What did I tell John Smith, Coach?" I said, "Well, I don't know. What did you tell him?" He said, "I told him I'm going to Nebraska. I'm going to be a Husker." And I said, that's when I knew, when I got Ridge Lovett, that one, he not only was a special wrestler, but he's a special leader. And I knew his competitive fire just energizes people. And, it just had an amazing effect. And I knew when we got him, and I knew when we got Brock Hardy, who, took a Mormon mission for 2 years. I knew when we got those two guys that we would have a special team, because just how mature they are, and they're leaders, and people gravitate to them and put off great vibes. Just some people, as Adam, are like that. And those two guys, especially Ridge, is dynamic that way.
Now, Mark, I'm going to make you pick between your children here, because you did have kind of a bit of a, you've had guys win championships before. So what was it kind of like? How does this compare to, obviously Jordan's championships, Paul and Jason and those guys that you've had before, to get to the pinnacle, obviously to win that national championship is everybody's goal, and to get there is just incredible. So you're one of those people that you have enough on your resume that we can compare them. How did this kind of compare to those championships that your wrestlers have won before?
Yeah, you know what? We haven't had back-to-back. I mean, we almost had back-to-back national champions right there. And with Ridge winning and then Antrell winning, I mean, it was just euphoric. It's really cool and really cool for our team. And, you saw our team look different because all our guys were down by the mat side cheering our guys on. And that just shows where there's a spiritual element to our team that I think not a lot of people have. And I think it's really special, and we're going to keep that growing on our team. But it's just a great moment for our team and great moment for our program.
So I don't know if enough people know this, but Coach Manning, in his own right, was a two-time NCAA Division II national champion, a three-time All-American as well back in the day when you wrestled. So that leads me to my question, because DP was there covering you guys. I'm just going to be, because I posted about you guys on Facebook and X. I started a TikTok account.
Yes. You were awesome. Thank you.
Like, I'm trying to cover as many sports as I can and talk about as many Husker sports as I can. I take the approach, high tide raises all ships. And I love that DP was there, but I'm going to ask the question. All right. How do we get, not how do we, but we need to, I'm going to put a phrase out there and you react. We need to get more coverage for the Nebraska wrestling team and more sports in general. And when someone like me says that, because I'm stating it as my opinion, but I'm going to pretend it's a fact. Okay. And what's your reaction to something like that? Because I want you specifically, we're talking to you, but all Husker sports, but the wrestling team specifically, to get more coverage. What are your thoughts, your reaction when you hear something like that?
Well, I think Derek, DP have been talking to us a lot about. He was at the Big Ten and saw epic moments there, and then the same thing this weekend. He was there. He was up front in person. He was talking to Troy. He said, hey, these guys deserve this. They need more coverage. And I think I kind of relate it to, because I've been here a long time, and I remember talking to John Cook about when they moved from the Devaney, or moved from the Coliseum, it was about 4,000. We used to wrestle in there too, right? Mm-hmm. Because men and women's basketball were in Devaney. It was craziness going on. We needed more room. That we didn't have, men and women didn't have a practice facility. They had to practice in the Bob Devaney Center. So anyway, when they moved from the Coliseum to the, I remember talking to John. He's like, I think the packet go, well, I don't know. And I think that's our next thing. Hey, we need to be able to sell out the Bob Devaney Center every time. And, I think that's the next, step in our program, and for the challenge for our fans to say, listen, we have an amazing team here. And they love, they have an amazing pride and for the end. And we're going to support these guys at the highest level, and we're going to support them like we do football or volleyball. And let's get behind these guys and march them on to a national title. Hey, let's beat Penn State. Let's hunt them down. And we need everyone behind us to do that. And obviously, Penn State had a big fan base there. It's easy when you're winning all the time, but we're right there. We're right there, Adam. And I think, we have been there. We've been a top 10 team for the last 10, 12 years. And so, but just stepping up like this shows that, with 7 out of the 9 guys that we took to nationals coming back, we have a lot in our room right now, and we're on a roll. We need to keep this rolling. We need to keep building this, not stop. Like, hey, we're doing good. No, we want to be great. And there's another level. And as you know, And I think fans will be seeing, an amazing product, amazing, they embody what Nebraska's all about: work ethic, keeping your head down, not bragging about how great you are, but going and showing it and earning it. And I think we've been, a good picture of that. And that would be my challenge to Husker Nation. And I know we had people, back here when we got back on Sunday. It was really cool. So.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time, Coach. Congratulations on a phenomenal season.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Adam. Thanks a lot. I appreciate everyone. I appreciate our fan base. So go Huskers.